All right, so today we're going to learn how to do what's called mole-to-mole calculations. So the first thing that we do is we start with a balanced equation, and I tried to make sure that I had all of your equations written in and balanced for you for this unit. Tomorrow we're going to talk about if you're given mass. Today I'm going to start you off with this practice with just starting off with moles. Okay? So we're gonna start in already with number 2 done, and then you're gonna figure out from that what the moles are, and that's as far as we're gonna go today. Eventually, I'll get you to the point where you're gonna take those moles then and convert them back into mass. All right. So the first thing we do is we start with our balanced equation, and just like we did with the bacon cheeseburger problems that we started out with the other day, or the egg specials when I was showing you the egg specials. We're going to write this equation in here, and each one of these columns gets a separate thing from our equation. Okay. Now, the only thing that should appear in these boxes are moles. So if this value wasn't given in moles, we'd have to convert it there. But today, everything's going to start out in moles for you. So we're just kind of easing you in. We're wading in very slowly into the waters. So this says 0.0400 moles of potassium. So I'm going to find potassium here. And it says that I am starting with that. So I'm going to put down 0.0400. You need to make sure that you always have at least 3 significant figures in these boxes. This 4 is significant, and these 2 zeros at the end are significant. These are my significant figures, and I have 3 of them. You need to make sure that you always have 3 there. Okay? Our next step then, well, we need to determine how much of this we've got. And if they don't tell you, you're going to assume that you have an excess amount. And we write in XS for excess here. That means we've got extra. We've got more of this than we need to use all of this up. That makes sense? But instead of writing the whole word out, we just write XS there. In the beginning, we haven't made any of this stuff yet. All right. Everybody up with me so far? Anything not making sense where I got stuff, how I got stuff, where I've got it from? Okay. So now, remember we talked about that cloud, how we're going to go up into the cloud. When we go up, what operation do we perform? When we're going up into the cloud, we do what? Division, right? We are going to divide here. When we go up, we divide. So when I go up, I'm going to take 0.0400. I'm going to divide it by 2. So that's going to give me 0.0200. All right, so I went up into the cloud. Now I'm going to come down out of the cloud. What's the opposite of multiplication or division, I mean? I already gave it away, I guess. The opposite of division is multiplication. Okay, so when we come down out of the cloud, we multiply by that coefficient. So we're going to take the cloud value and we're going to multiply by the coefficient. So this becomes 0.0400, and I'm going to subtract it from what I started from because these are my reactants. I'm using them up to make this stuff. When I come down out of the cloud here, I'm going to multiply the cloud value by this coefficient. That means that this is going to be minus 0.0400. When I come down out of the cloud here, this time instead of minus, I'm actually going to be plus because this is a product. We're making this stuff. So we're adding it. It's also going to be 0.0400. And lastly, my hydrogen here, what am I going to multiply by? No, just 1. I'm going to multiply by 1 because remember, if there's not a coefficient here, it's understood to be 1. So here, we're going to add 0.0200. That means then that I have none of this left over because this minus this is 0. This, I'm going to have some left over, but I don't know how much. So I'm just going to call that excess. Here, I will have made 0.0400, and here I will have made 0.0200. So they wanted to know how much hydrogen I was going to make, how many moles. I'm going to make 0.200 moles of H2. Questions? All right, let's see if we can do another one together. Did I not write an equation out for you guys? Does yours not have an equation on there? All right, sorry. So C3H8 plus O2. Maybe I didn't do it on all the note sheets because I figured I was going to do it with you. I think I did it on all the homework, though. All right, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. Okay, there you go. I got it balanced for you now. All right, I'm starting out with 10.0 moles of this. And this is 3 significant figures. 1 is significant. This zeros at the end of a number where there's a decimal are significant. So these are both end zeros where there's a decimal. So all 3 of those are significant. I've got 3 sig figs in my box right now. I want to maintain that. All right. How much oxygen do I have available? How much oxygen is available for me to work with? Did they tell me?
No.
So then I assume it to be excess. I assume that I have excess amount. I have extra available. Okay? If they don't tell you, you just make that leap. You make that assumption. We're doing that right now. Next week, you're going to get into situations where we tell you both of these and you got to figure out which one you run out of first. But right now, we're just kind of taking it slow. Okay? All right. How much of this do I have before I start? These are my products. How much of these do I have when I start? 0. I haven't made anything yet. Okay? That makes sense? All right. So now we're going to figure out our cloud value. So when we figure out our cloud value, when we go up into the cloud, we're going to divide by our coefficient here. What's our coefficient here? It's 1. Okay, we just didn't write it down. So 10 divided by 1 is 10. So spend a minute and see if you can figure out what these values are for your change line. Remember, these are going to be subtracted because we're using them up to make these things. So see if you can figure out what belongs in all 4 of these boxes. When you come down, so you've got your cloud numerator. Now when you come down, you're going to multiply by those coefficients. So this, no, this isn't, the coefficient out here is 1. That's a subscript. So that's 10. And this is going to be 10 times 5. Yep. And this is going to be, no, you've got a 3 here. 10 times, yep. What is this one? There you go. Yep. Huh? Yeah, you should, because you want to keep 3 sig figs in there. All right, let's see how this went. So when we got these, hopefully you found when we came down out of our cloud that you were multiplying. So when I come back down out, remember this is a 1, so I'm going to multiply 10 times 1. So I'm going to subtract 10 here. Here I'm going to subtract how many? 50, right. So 10 times 5, that's going to end up being 50. I'm going to subtract 50. Here I'm going to add because now we're making this stuff. So what am I going to add in here for the CO2? 30. And what am I going to add in for my water? 40. So in the end, how much of this am I going to have left over? 0. I'm not going to have anything left. I'm going to have used it all up. How much of this am I going to have left over? Excess. We don't know how much it's going to be, but there's going to be extra. Okay? And like I said, eventually we're going to give you both of these numbers and you're going to have some of one of these left over. And all you would have to do is subtract. How much are we going to have here for our CO2? How much should we make? 30 moles. Yep. And how much of our water? 40. And that they asked us how many moles of CO2. It's going to be 30 moles of CO2 produced. And we just got that value right from the table here. All right. We have sulfuric acid here. Sulfuric acid is formed when sulfur dioxide reacts with oxygen and water. And that's going to form sulfuric acid, H2SO4. All right, I got to balance this. Got 3, 5, so I'm going to put a 2 here. So then I need to put a 2 here, and I need to put a 2 here. Now let's see if that's balanced. So I've got 4 oxygens here, 5, 6, 7, 8. Everything's balanced. Okay, so that's the balanced equation there. We're starting out with 12.5 moles of SO2. They want to know how many moles of this. So we're trying to solve and figure out what is going to go in this box. So see if you can fill out these boxes and get that answer. is you bring it down out of the cloud. So you're going to take that value and multiply by all of the coefficients of the crunching.
So like for this one, how do we get excess again?
They didn't tell you how much you started with for the oxygen, so you just make that assumption. Or you just assume it's excess. Just like here, they only told us about this. So we're going to put excess here and excess here.
Okay.
And this is SO2 and SO4. Okay. You don't start with any. This one would be excess because that's a reactant. They didn't tell us how much we had of it. And then you don't start with anything. So that would be 0. Because that's your products. Remember when we made the egg specials, you didn't start off with any in the beginning. You had to make them. So they don't tell you how much you have of these to start with. So these are both going to be excess. Okay. This should be an arrow. These are your products. Okay? And you wouldn't have started out with anything here. That should be a 5. This is 12.5 here. Okay? So now you're going to bring that up. You're going to take 2 divided by, or 12.5 divided by 2. That's going to be your cloud. Yep. You just need to bring it down now.
Oh, I have to divide it.
For that one, yep.
How about yours?
Well, these are both excess because they are your other reactants and they didn't tell you how much you started with. So they're both going to be excess. XS. Oh, okay. No, it's XS. It just stands for excess, like EX. Okay. And then you wouldn't have started with anything here. No, that would be 0. That's your product. You're not making anything. See the division here with the arrow? These are your starting things. These are your finishing.
The last bit.
All right. So then you're going to take your cloud and you're going to multiply by each coefficient. So 6.25 times 1. And here you're going to multiply it by, so that goes there. And then here you're going to multiply it by, there you go. Yeah, that's its coefficient. All right, so let's look at these and see how we did. So you would have started out here with an excess amount of both of these because they are reactants. You wouldn't have started out with any of this because that's a product and we have to make that stuff. Now, we're going to go up and we're going to figure out what our cloud is. So I'm going to go up into my cloud here. I have to divide by 2 to get into my cloud. My cloud then is going to end up being 6.25. Then I need to multiply, coming down out of the cloud, I'm going to multiply, and that's going to give me my change line. So for the change line, we're going to multiply by each one of our coefficients. We need to subtract from our reactants because we're using that up to make our products. And we're going to add to our product side because we're using those reactants to make products. So in the end, we'll end up with 12.5 moles of H2SO4. We're going to have an excess amount of water, an excess amount of oxygen, and we won't have any SO2 left over. All right. So tonight, you're going to be practicing on 11.3. You're going to be practicing your reactants here and your mole-to-mole ratios. And I believe there's 10 problems. Yes, there's 10 problems. We've got time to get started on it. We got about 15 minutes to work on those. You can work on your lab as well if you'd like. Okay? These are your products. Start out at 0. Okay? And here, yep. So those are your products. You always start out with products of 0. Yeah, this is where you're good at providing units. Yeah, sign the board and take the pass, please. Well, you need to finish your test too. Mario, you want to go back to your seat so you can finish this test up?
Describing the before would be right here. Just tell me. You should have said that the first place.
Have you started them? Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.